Well, guys, it's in the back of the Bronco. Hey everybody, got a mystery item here. Been trying to figure out what this piece of cast iron is. I found it up at my buddy's property, up in the mountains, and the property used to be a whole bunch of mining sites, and the family's owned the property since the 1920s, late 1920s. Okay. And all the mining was well over with by that time, so nobody knew this was here or there. I found it completely buried except for just a little part of this was sticking out of the ground, and it was after the big Kincade fires that we had last year. So this spring I was up there with my buddy, and we were doing some cleanup and just kind of looking around and stuff. And I knew that there was some mining relics in this one spot because I had seen a couple footings coming up out of the ground a couple years ago. But you couldn't see much because there was so much brush and overgrowth. Well, after the fire, everything had cleaned out, so I went back in there, just kind of poking around, and I started finding, pieces of metal and so forth. And there's the other thing is there's a lot of bricks, hundreds of bricks. So there was some kind of a structure there at one time. But long story short, I saw a corner of this thing sticking up out of the ground, and started digging around it a little bit, and ended up getting a big tree limb to pry this thing out of the ground. And anyways, here's what we got, and I have no idea what this thing is. I mean, and we're up in the mountains where it's not easy access. In fact, even today, it's four-wheel drive only to get in there. So back in those days, that would have been early automobiles. Most likely, horse and wagon to get stuff up there. So, I mean, this thing weighs 150 pounds, I'm guessing. So it would have been quite an effort to get it up there. So it had to be something important that they would have gone through the effort to get it up there. So anyways, let's take a look. It's got a flat edge up here, and obviously it's got this half circle feature. But this thing is pretty flat, pretty true. And remember, this was buried in the dirt for, I'm going to say, 100 years. Pretty amazing. And this is not as flat, but overall, there's some pretty, it's made pretty well for its age. Let me bring you guys around to the other side here. Let me see if I can lower this thing down. This thing is a heavy beast. All right, that ought to be a little better. In fact, let me get you guys down here low. So, can you guys see that all right? So, this thing is flat. I mean, I don't have a good straight edge, this long, but I mean, this is pretty dang flat. Granted, it's really pitted and so forth from being buried out in the elements for so long. And lengthwise, what do we got here? So there's 36 plus another 8, so that's what, 44 inches. That's pretty good size that way. And then we got 12 inches this way, and then there's a flange on the bottom here, and that's pretty straight too. Okay. All right, let me tip this back up. All right, So now here's what's odd. So originally I was thinking that this cutout was like for a shaft or something like that, but I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but there's draft on here. So this is probably as cast. Let's see if you guys can see that or not, but it's not, you know, it's not square. It's got a, you know, typical draft for, you know, for casting molding. So what's our thickness here? We're about 1.25 inches thick, you know, on the flat part, not counting the webbing. And like I mentioned before, this thing is heavy. I'm puzzled as to what the heck it would have been used for. It's been driving me nuts. Trying to think why would miners drag this thing way up in the mountains? The type of mining was cinnabar, so quicksilver. And the claims that were on my buddy's property were, I mean, they were just more exploratory type claims. They weren't big operations. I mean, they weren't small either, but they weren't major operations. Now the other side of the mountain, they had some huge mines over that way. But yeah, very interesting. So I would like to know what it is. So, and if anybody's got any ideas, I would really like to hear them. When I first saw this thing there, I go, oh man, that could make a good surface plate. But then when I got it home and cleaned it, there's some pretty good pits in here. And you'd have to take off it, you know, well, you could probably fill a few of these in, but you'd have to take off at least 1/4 inch. It'd be a major operation. But anyways, I drug it home. It's probably going to end up being yard art, but I just couldn't leave it up there. All right, so I'm going to show you a bunch of clips from when I found it and bringing it home and so on. But yeah, just throwing it out there if anybody's got an idea what this could have possibly been. Been up doing a little bit of exploring this morning. So my buddy's property here, yeah, the fire went through last year. So we've been finding things that we didn't know was here. You know, now that we can see the country, this was all brushed in before, but there was some type of a mining operation here. Probably a processing facility. So I knew that these footings were here because I found them by accident a few years ago, but they had something major in here. Now, back over this way, there's water. It's up there. There's a stream that comes down the mountainside. So I think they had a processing plant here, probably steam powered, and there's bricks everywhere, all over the place. And then I've been finding pieces of metal, just been kind of poking around. So over here I saw a little piece of cast iron sticking up and started kicking it around and digging a little bit, and here's what I got. So I don't know what this was, but it is one heck of a heavy piece of cast iron. So this webbing, or the main body here, it's a good inch thick.